When a disaster hits, what's the one right we absolutely can't afford to lose? Well, that is the huge question at the very heart of a really powerful article by Sampath Samarakoon on the Vikalpa platform. And trust me, the answer might not be what you think. I mean, really think about it for a second. In the middle of all the chaos, a flood, a cyclone, what freedom do you think is the first to go? The right to property? Maybe the right to move around freely? The article we're breaking down today argues it's actually something way more fundamental, our right to speak. And to really get why that is, we have to look at a real-world event that grounds this whole discussion, the Dittuva cyclone. See, this isn't some theoretical debate in a classroom. It's a story that comes from a moment of intense national crisis, a moment that put these very rights to the ultimate test. The human cost was just staggering. 618. That's 618 people who tragically lost their lives. It's a number that immediately reminds you of the very real stakes we're talking about when a crisis hits. And the scale of it all was just immense. Look at this number. Over 2 million people were directly affected. When you have entire communities turned upside down like that, the official response becomes absolutely everything. Okay, so here's where the story takes a really sharp turn. Sampath Samarakoon's article makes the case that right after the natural disaster, a second man-made disaster started to unfold. And this one wasn't about wind or rain. It was about silence, brought on by the official response. And here's the first really crucial point the article highlights. There was already a specific law on the books, the Disaster Management Act, designed for exactly this kind of situation. But instead of using that targeted law, the government went for the massive, sweeping powers of a state of emergency. Now, why does that choice matter so much? Let's dig in. And here you have it, the public reason. This statement from the deputy minister, it sounds pretty reasonable on the surface, right? Of course, nobody wants fake news spreading during a crisis, but the article really pushes us to ask a tougher question. Who gets to decide what's a lie, and what's just legitimate criticism? And this right here, this is the core conflict. The official line was all about preventing panic and keeping order, but as the article points out, there's a really dangerous flip side. Preventing panic can so easily become a tool to suppress any kind of criticism, and centralizing information can create a vacuum where the people who need help the most are left completely in the dark. You know, this choice to go with emergency powers instead of the specific law is a perfect example of what the article, citing the philosopher Hannah Arendt, calls arbitrary power. It's what happens when the rules are no longer fixed, and authority is just based on what someone decides in the moment. And that is exactly where the threat to free expression really starts. So, if silencing people is the second disaster, then what's the solution? Well, the article argues, very forcefully, that the real lifeline in any crisis isn't control, it's communication. It's about more speech, not less. And this isn't just some abstract idea. It has real, practical, life-saving consequences. Think about it. When citizens are free to speak, they can report exactly what they need, right from the ground. That means aid gets sent where it's actually needed. It lets people point out when the response is failing, which forces accountability. As the article notes, kind of echoing John Stuart Mill, truth isn't something handed down from the top. It comes out of open debate and, even dissent. And this leads us to a really critical distinction the article makes. Is the goal to save people, or is it to manage them? Because they're not the same thing. Saving people means you treat them like active partners, with dignity, people who have crucial information to share. Managing people? Well, that means treating them like passive objects that just need to be controlled and kept quiet. The article argues the official response was leaning dangerously toward that second one. So, this brings us to the very heart of the argument, and honestly, it's where the article gets really profound. What are we actually giving up when we give up our right to speak, even if it's for the promise of safety? Just let that sink in for a second. It's probably one of the most powerful metaphors in the whole piece. Life, without the ability to express yourself, is just a biological function. Because what is a human life, really? Is it just the mechanics of inhaling and exhaling? Or is it about having dignity, having agency, having a say in your own fate? The article is clear. True living requires all that and more. And this, right here, is the ultimate price. When you take away someone's voice, you're stripping away their humanity. They're no longer a person, an individual with thoughts and feelings and rights. They just become a problem to be contained, an object to be managed by the powers that be. So, where does that leave us? Well, it brings every society, especially in a crisis, to a fork in the road. It's a choice between two totally different ideas of what safety and security actually mean. So, which path do we choose? The one that leads to a quiet, orderly society where problems get swept under the rug? Or the path to an open, sometimes messy society where citizens are actually empowered to speak up? Sampath Samarakoon's conclusion is crystal clear. Real safety can only be found down that second path, because silence doesn't solve problems, it just hides them, letting them fester and grow into the next crisis. And so, we end with the one question that's really at the core of this whole thing. Is a population that can't speak out, can't criticize, can't hold power accountable, are they ever truly safe? Or is that silence just the calm before the next storm? It's a question worth thinking about long after the disaster has passed.